A video released by Ukraine claims to show fighting near the city of Bakhmut. This is where Ukrainian soldiers have been fighting Russian troops for months. Both sides have described the battle as a meat grinder. Neither of the two sides have managed to win the city. Russia claims to have made progress in the fighting. However, British intelligence claims that Ukrainian forces are successfully pushing the Russians back. The International Atomic Energy Agency head, Rafael Grossi, visited the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. He witnessed an increased military activity and damage to the surrounding areas. Grossi said that the power plant faced a more dangerous phase. He's willing to propose specific protection measures acceptable to both Moscow and Kyiv, and the deal is still evolving. Russia's deputy foreign minister has said that Moscow has stopped notifying the US about its nuclear activity, including test launches. This comes after Russia pulled out of the New START arms control treaty last month. In response, the US said that it won't provide Moscow with detailed data on its nuclear weapons stockpile. Both countries have exchanged information on test launches of their ballistic missiles since the Cold War era. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-Wen has arrived in New York. This is a stopover in her journey to the Central American nations of Guatemala and Belize. Ahead of her departure, Tsai said that external pressure will not prevent the island nation from engaging with the world. Her statement came after China threatened to retaliate if Tsai holds a meeting with US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Prosecutors in Mexico have identified 8 suspects who may be responsible for the death of 39 people. They died due to a fire at a migrant detention center. The 8 suspects include 2 federal agents, a state migration officer, and 5 members of a private security firm. Prosecutors are investigating the incident as a possible homicide case. Emergency protocols are under the scanner. Protests against a judicial overhaul continued in the Israeli city of Tel Aviv. This comes despite the country's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, suspending the judicial reforms. Many people are now protesting against plans to establish a separate National Guard. Meanwhile, the US has again urged Israeli leaders to come up with a compromise as soon as possible. The US has condemned Myanmar's decision to abolish 40 political parties, including the former ruling party. The deputy spokesperson of the US State Department said, "Any election without the participation of all stakeholders in Myanmar cannot be considered free and fair." Myanmar's military junta had abolished political parties for not registering for an election on time. Other countries, including the UK, Japan, and Australia, have also expressed concern. US Vice President Kamala Harris has arrived in Tanzania's capital, Dar es Salaam. She was greeted by the country's Vice President. Harris is scheduled to meet President Samia Suluhu Hassan. Before arriving in Tanzania, Harris was in Ghana. After Tanzania, Harris will head to Zambia. The visit comes at a time when Washington is trying to counterbalance growing Chinese influence on the African continent. Australia has passed a law which requires companies to reveal their gender pay gap. The law is applicable for companies with more than 100 employees. In 2023, Australia's gender pay gap was more than 13%. The country's Minister for Women said, and I quote, "On current projections, it will take another 26 years to close the gender pay gap. Women have waited long enough." The UK took a similar step in 2017. The country made it mandatory for all companies with more than 250 employees to disclose their gender pay gap. The South American nation of Chile has detected its first case of bird flu in a human. The case was detected in a 53-year-old man who developed severe influenza symptoms. The government is investigating the source of contagion. Authorities are also tracing people who came in contact with the patient. Chile has been reporting cases of the H5N1 bird flu in wild animals since late last year. Former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro is returning to Brazil. He had been under a self-imposed exile in the United States for more than 3 months. Bolsonaro went to the US after he lost his re-election bid against President Lula da Silva. He left Brazil 2 days before Lula da Silva's presidential inauguration. Bolsonaro skipped the traditional practice of passing the presidential sash to his successor. Twitter has blocked the Pakistan government's Twitter account from being viewed in India. This comes in response to a legal demand. The account remains available for viewing and interaction in the US and Canada. This is reportedly the third time when Pakistan government's Twitter account has been restricted in India. It was also withheld in July and October last year. Pope Francis has been hospitalized as he has a respiratory infection. The 86-year-old pontiff was taken to a hospital in Rome after he complained of breathing difficulties. The Pope has tested negative for COVID-19. His hospitalization comes ahead of a Palm Sunday service. It marks the start of a hectic week of ceremonies leading to Easter Sunday. It's not known whether the Pope will be able to attend the ceremonies. More drone videos have been released showing the extent of damage that floods caused in the US state of California. Roads and crops are completely submerged underwater. In recent weeks, thousands of people in California have been forced to evacuate due to extreme weather. US President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden will visit the state of Mississippi. Their visit comes a week after the state was devastated by a tornado. At least 25 people were killed. Last week, Biden approved a federal disaster declaration for Mississippi to help the state recover. Oman in West Asia is witnessing floods. This comes after the country witnessed heavy to moderate rainfall in most regions. Residents and tourists have been warned to stay away from the valleys. Oman is vulnerable to floods, cyclones, drought, sand, and dust storms. People in Peru are dealing with the aftermath of heavy rains. Rivers are overflowing, infrastructure is damaged, and homes are flooded. People are struggling to get back on their feet once again. At least 60 people have died in Peru since the beginning of the rainy season late last year. An unusual thunderstorm led to a late spring snowfall in Canada's Toronto. Thundersnow is a phenomenon when thunder and snow fall at the same time. This is the second time this winter season that this relatively rare event has taken place in Ontario. A wildfire raged through a national park in Thailand. A steep mountain only 2 hours away from Bangkok caught fire. Authorities are yet to identify the cause of the blaze. However, locals say that the fire might have been sparked from thunder strikes and strong winds in the area. Locals also said that wild animals will be directly impacted by the fire. According to a new report, the deep water flows which derive ocean currents in Antarctica could decline by 40% by the year 2050. This is due to rapidly melting Antarctic ice. This is alarming because currents carry vital heat, oxygen, carbon, and other nutrients around the globe. The slowdown could reduce the ocean's ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Wall Street banks, including JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, are looking to start trading private credit loans. The banks are among the firms talking to private debt funds about facilitating secondary market transactions. The banks have not announced the decision publicly yet. Former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz appeared on Capitol Hill on Wednesday to defend himself and the coffee chain against allegations of union busting. The Seattle-based company had previously denied allegations that it illegally fired pro-union baristas or spied on workers. Schultz said he did not have any direct role in firing workers who supported the union or closing unionized stores. He left his third stint as CEO on March 20th. Walt Disney has laid off Marvel Entertainment chairman Isaac Perlmutter as part of a cost-cutting campaign. 80-year-old Pearl Butter had supported activist shareholder Nelson Peltz in his unsuccessful bid this year to obtain a seat on Disney's corporate board. The executive was informed by phone on Wednesday that Marvel Entertainment would be merged into larger Disney business units. Electronic Arts Incorporated has said it will lay off about 6% of its workforce and reduce office space. The move makes Electronic Arts the first major video game publisher to announce job cuts. Technology firms have led the latest round of layoffs. They are fearing a potential economic downturn amid rising interest rates around the world. Adidas is backpedaling over its latest attempt to protect its iconic three-stripe mark. The German sportswear company had said it's dropping its opposition to an attempt by a Black Lives Matter campaign group to trademark a logo featuring three parallel stripes. Adidas has filed a complaint with the United States Patent and Trademark Office on Monday. Elon Musk has joined artificial intelligence experts and industry executives worried about AI's impact on society. He is among signatories to an open letter calling for a 6-month pause in developing systems stronger than OpenAI's GPT-4. They have called for a pause until shared safety rules for IT are developed, implemented and audited by independent experts. The letter was issued by the non-profit Future of Life Institute and signed by more than 1,000 people. According to media reports, Meta has reportedly disclosed pricing for blue tick on Facebook and Instagram in India. Users can subscribe to Meta Verified at Rs 1,450 per month on mobile and 1,099 for accessing Facebook and Instagram on the web. Meta launched Meta Verified in February this year, inspired by Elon Musk's Twitter Blue plan. It's a subscription-based service that verifies profiles using a government ID. According to experts, chatbots are taking away a key line of defense against fraudulent phishing emails by removing glaring grammatical and spelling errors. The warning comes as policing organization RuPauls issues an international advisory about the potential criminal use of ChatGPT and other large language models. Twitter has reversed course on plans to limit presence on its For You timeline to paying users only. The social media giant's owner, Elon Musk, claims he forgot to mention that other users would be visible as well. Musk had said on Tuesday that Twitter would limit the tab that algorithmically curates tweets for users. It would only display accounts who had paid $9 a month for Twitter Blue and linked their account to a working phone number. Astronomers have discovered an ultramassive black hole using the new gravitational lensing technique. The findings reveal that the black hole is more than 30 billion times the mass of the Sun. The new technology uses a nearby galaxy as a giant magnifying glass to bend the light from a more distant object. Supercomputer simulations and images captured by the Hubble Space Telescope were also used to confirm the size of the black hole. In sports, Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger have been inducted into the Premier League's Hall of Fame. 81-year-old Ferguson won a record 13 titles with Manchester United and is the most successful manager in Premier League history. Meanwhile, Wenger won 3 league titles during his 22-year spell in charge of Arsenal. He led the Invincibles to an unbeaten league-winning season in 2003-2004. Ferguson and Wenger are the first 2 managers to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. FIFA has stripped Indonesia of the right to host the Under-20 Football World Cup. The decision was taken after Indonesia's Football Federation said it had cancelled the draw after the governor of Bali refused to host Israel's team. The tournament was scheduled to take place between May 20th and June 11th. FIFA have extended bans imposed on past and present Juventus officials to apply worldwide. Tottenham Hotspur's current managing director of football, Fabio Paratici, is among the individuals affected by the move. In January, Serie A's Juventus were deducted 15 points for the season. This was done by an Italian football court investigating the club's transfer, dealings and finances. Arsenal's women's team turned tables on Bayern Munich to reach the Women's Champions League last fall. The Gunners defeated Bundesliga leaders Bayern Munich to 2-0. With the win, the Gunners have booked a place in the Women's Champions League semi-final for the first time in 10 years. Edeval's team will play the winners of tonight's encounter between Wolfsburg and Paris Saint-Germain. Jannik Sinner eased past unseeded Finn Emil Ruusuvuori in straight sets to book his spot in the Miami Open semi-final. Despite a lengthy rain interruption at the start of the second set, the 10th seeded Italian picked up where he left off after the break and cruised to a 6-3, 6-1 victory. Sinner will next meet either world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz or 9th seed Taylor Fritz of the US for a place in the final. Great Britain will face last year's runners-up Australia along with France and Switzerland in the group stage of the Davis Cup finals at Manchester's AO Arena in September. Leon Smith's side qualified for the group stage by defeating Colombia 3-1 away in February. Elsewhere in the draw, defending champions Canada are top seeds in Group A and will play in Bologna against hosts Italy, Sweden and Chile. Ukrainian tennis player Marta Kostyuk has rejected International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach's claim that Russian and Belarusian athletes can return to international competitions. Bach used the example of Kostyuk's victory at the WTA tournament in Austin, Texas earlier in March over Russia's Varvara Gracheva in the final to reinforce his point. The International Olympic Committee has issued recommendations for the gradual return to international competitions for Russian and Belarusian athletes as neutrals. IOC President Thomas Bach said their participation works despite the war in Ukraine. He added that recommendations for events organizers and sports federations to follow that included that Russian and Belarusian athletes can only compete with no flag or anthem. Red Bull stands poised to shrug off their Australian Grand Prix hoodoo on Sunday. Red Bull have not won at Albert Park since former driver Sebastian Vettel claimed the 2011 race. With Max Verstappen leading a Red Bull 1-2 in Bahrain and teammate Sergio Perez flipping the order in Jeddah, Red Bull have been in a class of their own this season. Sport Integrity Australia and the government laboratory accused of botching Peter Bowl's anti-doping test sample are staying silent. This as pressure builds and experts underscore the potentially massive global ramifications of the Olympians' case. Bowl tested positive for synthetic performance-enhancing drug erythropoietin in January. The alleged botched testing was carried out by the ASDTL, a WADA-accredited lab at the National Measurement Institute. RuPaul's Drag Race show creators call anti-drag bills un-American. Producers Fenton Bailey and Randy Barbato call the bills part of an insidious plan. They say the hate is all part of a larger movement. The Emmy Award winners urge others to support local drag queens. George Michael's song Careless Whisper has crossed 1 billion YouTube views. The late singer released the chart-topping song in 1984. The official music video for the song was uploaded to YouTube in October 2009. The song has become the 8th song from the 1980s to reach YouTube's billion views club. Actor Matthew McFadden is in talks to join the cast of Deadpool 3. The role is written as a third wheel to Deadpool and Wolverine. The film stars Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman in lead roles. Sean Levy will reprise his duties as director. Deadpool 3 is slated for a November 2024 release. Hit drama series Blue Bloods has been renewed for a 14th season. Actors and producers have taken a 25% pay cut to keep the production on. Blue Bloods has been television network CBS's second longest running show. It stars Tom Selleck, Donnie Wahlberg and Vanessa Ray. A trailer has released for director Wes Anderson's new comedy film Asteroid City. The film is set in a fictional American town in the 1950s. It stars Tom Hanks and Scarlett Johansson, among others. Asteroid City will release on July 23rd. It's also expected to premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. The first official teaser released for Season 3 of Okafina is Nora from Queens. Writer Okafina will make her directorial debut with the third season. The series will premiere on the 26th of April. Thriller series Man on Fire gets greenlit at Netflix. The television show will have 8 episodes. The series is adapted from author A.J. Quinnell's 5-part book series. It tells the story of ex-mercenary John Creasy. The character was previously played by actor Denzel Washington in the 2004 film adaptation. The lineup for the 2023 Latin American Music Awards has been announced. Rapper Mike Towers, singers Prince Royce and Eden Munoz are set to perform. The 8th edition of the awards will take place on the 20th of April. The show will be aired live from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. The Academy of Country Music Awards have announced their hosts. Singers Garth Brooks and Dolly Parton will host the 58th edition of the awards. This will be Parton's second consecutive year hosting the ceremony. The awards will take place at Ford Center in Texas. The show will be webcast live on the 11th of April on Amazon Prime Video. The creator of the dating show The Bachelor is leaving it after over 20 years. Mike Fleece launched the show in March 2002. The news of his departure comes shortly after the season 27 finale.